Hi there, in this video I'm going to show you how to work the UK treble stitch. This is also known as double crochet if you are using American terminology. The abbreviations in a crochet pattern for the treble stitch are TR, and if you take a look at the picture to the side you'll see that the chart symbol is this T shape which has a small diagonal line running through the centre step. This chart symbol is the same for whether you're working the UK treble stitch or you're using the USA terms for the equivalent, which is called double crochet stitch. So the first thing that I'm going to do is show you how to work the actual stitch, and then I'll go on to showing you how to work it into a foundation chain. When it comes to making the UK treble stitch, I explain to people that there's two sections to making this stitch. There's an increasing section where we've started with one stitch on our hook and we increase up to 3 stitches on the hook. And then there's the decreasing section where we come back from 3 stitches on the hook gradually down to 1 stitch again. So to do this, I'm going to take my yarn up the back of the hook, over the top and down the front, and hold the yarn to the back of my work. Then I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to put it through both sides of the next stitch, and you'll see it looks like a V. Then I'm going to take my yarn over the hook again, so it comes over the top and down the front, and it sort of flops into place, but that's absolutely fine. And then I'm going to draw that hook back, catching that yarn, and I now have 3 stitches on my hook, and that's the first part of the stitch complete. So now I'm going to decrease back down to 1 stitch on my hook. So I'm going to take my yarn up the back, over the top and down the front of the hook and to the back of my work. Then I'm going to draw that hook back with the thread through the first 2 stitches. And I've got 2 stitches left on my hook. Now I'm going to do that again. I'm going to take my yarn up the back, over the top, down the front and to the back of my work. And then I'm going to draw that hook back, catching the thread through the last 2 stitches, and that's 1 treble stitch complete. So to do that again, I'm going to take the yarn up the back, over the top, down the front, this is known as a yarn over, and hold it to the back of my work. The hook then goes through both sides of the next stitch, and then there's another yarn over, so it's going to come over the top and down the front, and it sort of flops. Then I can pull the hook back through to the front, catching that yarn and bringing it with me, and I've got 3 stitches on the hook. So again, yarn comes up the back, over the top and down the front, yarn goes to the back of my work, and then I can draw my hook back, bringing that thread with me through the first 2 stitches. Then again, yarn up the back, over the top, down the front, to the back of my work, and then draw that hook back through with the thread through the last 2 stitches. So I'm going to do that once more. So it's yarn up over the top of the hook, down the front, hook goes through both sides of the stitch, yarn goes over the hook, and I can draw the hook back through to the front. Then it's yarn over the hook and draw through the first 2, and then yarn over the hook and draw through the last 2. So we'll do that once more. So it's yarn over the hook, through both sides of the stitch, yarn over the hook, pull back through, and I've got 3 stitches on my hook. Yarn over the hook, pull back through the first 2 stitches, and I've got 2 stitches left on my hook. Yarn over the hook and pull back through the second set of 2 stitches, and I'm back down to 1 stitch left on my hook. So we've reached the end of the row and we're ready to make another row of trebles. So when we turn our work and we're going to work a treble stitch at the beginning of the next row, we always make 3 chain. And this is to give some height and stop our work from pinching at the edges, and it represents the first stitch of the row. So we can ignore the 3 chain that we've just made and the first stitch because this is representing it, and then we're going to work our trebles from the second stitch onwards. So it's yarn over the hook, through both sides of the stitch, yarn over the hook, pull back through, and we've made the first part of our stitch. Yarn over the hook and pull back through the first 2, yarn over the hook and pull back through the next 2. So again, yarn over the hook, through both sides of the stitch, yarn over the hook, pull back to 3 stitches on our hook. First part of the stitch is now made. Now it's yarn over the hook, pull back through the first 2, and then yarn over the hook and pull through the last 2, and that is our second treble made. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to make a slip knot and to make a foundation chain. Now, if you need to see this in further detail, I'm going to put a link in here above and in the notes below to take you to my video showing you step by step all the details that you need for making a slip knot and a foundation chain. So here we go, we've got a short foundation chain here made, and when it comes to working into the foundation chain, there's lots of ways that you can do this, but I think the simplest and most straightforward way to show people is just to work along one edge. So we're going to be working into one side of these V's all the way along. So we don't count the stitch that's on our hook, and we're going to be counting from the first stitch underneath our hook. So I'm going to be working into the 4th chain. I'm going to miss the first 3 and then work into this 4th one here. Now the reason is that the first 3 chain will stand up and represent our first treble stitch, and it will stop the edge from pinching. So I'm going to miss 1, 2, 3, and there's my 4th chain. So I'm going to take my yarn over the hook and go through one side of the chain, and then it's yarn over the hook and pull back through, and there we go, we've got the first half of the stitch made again. So we've got 3 stitches on our hook. So it's yarn over the hook and then pull back through the first 2 stitches on our hook, and then yarn over the hook and pull back through the second 2, and we've made our first treble. So now I'm going to go into the side of the next V. So it's yarn over the hook, hook through one side of the V, yarn over the hook and pull it back to 3, and that's the first half of the stitch made. Then it's yarn over the hook, pull back through the first 2, yarn over the hook, and then pull back through the last 2. Then we're going to move on to the next chain. So it's yarn over the hook and then hook through one side of the V, and then yarn over the hook and pull that hook back through, and we've got our 3 stitches on our hook, and then it's yarn over the hook and pull back through the first 2, and then yarn over the hook and pull back through the last 2. Now when we look at our foundation chain, you'll notice that the very last treble that you've made has almost made like a hole effect. It looks like you might think that you've done something wrong, because you'll look and you'll see that there is a hole at the base of your stitch and the foundation chain, but that's just where the stitch has opened up where you've worked into it. When you work your next stitch, that will close up. So I'm going to show you here, yarn over the hook, I'm working into the next stitch, and I'm making my treble. And what's happened here is I now have a hole just under the treble that I've just made, and the hole has closed up in the previous stitch. So now when I work into the following stitch and make my next treble, the hole that's at the base of this stitch here will disappear. So it's yarn over the hook through one side of the V, yarn over the hook, pull it back to 3, yarn over the hook, pull it back to 2, yarn over the hook and pull it back to 1, and you'll see again a hole has appeared under the stitch that I've just made, but it has closed up along all the previous stitches. So I'm going to continue this way till I get to the end of my row, just to show you at which point to stop making your chain stitches. So I'm almost at the end now of my foundation chain, but I just wanted to show you that you're not going to try and make a stitch in this little slip knot at the end. you make your last treble in the first chain that you made, but then that little slip knot you made at the beginning, which is here, you ignore that, and then that will just get caught in when you sew your ends in afterwards. So thanks for joining me. I hope that's been helpful and look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.